Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Cybersecurity All-in-One For Dummies by Joseph Steinberg, Kevin Beaver, CISSP, Ira Winkler, CISSP, and Ted Coombs. Narrated by Tom Perkins. Publisher's Note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to figures and tables present in the print and e-book formats of the book. Limit of liability, disclaimer of warranty. While the publisher and authors have used their best efforts in preparing this work, they make no representations or warranties with respect to the accuracy or completeness of the contents of this work, and specifically disclaim all warranties, including, without limitation, any implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. No warranty may be created or extended by sales representatives, written sales materials, or promotional statements for this work. The fact that an organization, website, or product is referred to in this work as a citation and/or potential source of further information does not mean that the publisher and authors endorse the information or services the organization, website, or product may provide, or recommendations it may make. This work is sold with the understanding that the publisher is not engaged in rendering professional services. The advice and strategies contained herein may not be suitable for your situation. You should consult with a specialist where appropriate. Further, readers should be aware that websites listed in this work may have changed or disappeared between when this work was written and when it is read. Neither the publisher nor authors shall be liable for any loss of profit or any other commercial damages, including but not limited to special, incidental, consequential, or other damages. Introduction. Computer and network security is a complex subject and an ever-moving target. Protecting your information means understanding the threats that are out there and knowing how to defend against them. Whether you're securing a business network, cloud data, personal computer, or smart device, the techniques and tools outlined in Cybersecurity All-in-One For Dummies can help. About this book. Cybersecurity All-in-One For Dummies provides the guidance, instruction, and tools you need to protect your information from cyber thieves and other ne'er-do-wells. The book describes common cyber attacks and how to defend against them. You also gain insight into the bad guys who perform the attacks. Leading cybersecurity experts detail the actions you can take to enhance your personal cybersecurity and that of your small or big business. You see how to protect your devices and data stored on a network and on the cloud. This book provides essential instructions for testing the security of your systems. And when you're ready to create and implement a security awareness program to help reduce potential damage caused by social engineering, physical, phishing, and other attacks, this book has got you covered. A quick note. Sidebars provide details that may be of interest but are not crucial to understanding the topics being covered in the main text. Feel free to read them or skip them. You also can skip over paragraphs accompanied by the technical stuff icon, as text marked with this icon provides more detail about theory or other aspects of the topic covered in a section. Foolish assumptions. Here are some assumptions about you and why you picked this book. You want to secure your personal or business data and systems against cyber attack. You are an aspiring information technology, IT, or security professional, or you have some background in managing or working directly in the information security field. You're familiar with basic computer, network, and information security concepts and terms. You have access to a computer and a network on which to use these techniques and tools. You have the go-ahead from your employer or your client to perform the hacking techniques described in this book. Disclaimer. This book is intended solely for information technology, IT, and information security professionals to test the security of their or their clients' systems in an authorized fashion. If you choose to use the information in this book to hack or break into computer systems maliciously and without authorization, you're on your own. Neither the authors nor anyone else associated with this book shall be liable or responsible for any unethical or criminal choices that you might make and execute using the methodologies and tools that are described in this book. Icons verbalized in this book. Remember, this important information merits repeating and is worth remembering. Technical stuff. This icon flags information that is a little deeper or more conceptual than the main text. If you're in a hurry, feel free to skip these paragraphs. Tip. This icon flags actions that can make life easier when you're working to secure your data and systems. Warning. Take heed of information flagged with this icon to save yourself from problems down the road. Beyond the book. In addition to the material in the print or e-book you're reading right now, this product comes with some Access Anywhere goodies on the web. Check out the free cheat sheet for information on combating social engineering attacks, selecting from password cracking utilities, and creating a security awareness interview. To get this cheat sheet, simply go to dummies.com and search for Cybersecurity All-in-One For Dummies cheat sheet in the search box. Where to go from here? You don't have to read this book from cover to cover, but you can if you like. If you want to find information on a specific aspect of cybersecurity, take a look at the table of contents or index, and then turn to the chapter or section that interests you. For example, if you want to understand the most common cybersecurity attacks and the people to defend against, turn to Book 1. If you're interested in enhancing your personal cybersecurity, see Book 2. To secure business data stored on your network and in the cloud, see Books 3 and 4. To test your business's vulnerability and increase security awareness throughout your organization, see Books 5 and 6. No matter where you start, you'll find the information you need to secure the information stored on your personal and business devices, on networks, and on the cloud. Good luck. 1. Cybersecurity Basics. Contents at a glance. Chapter 1. What exactly is cybersecurity? Chapter 2. Getting to know common cyber attacks. Chapter 3. The bad guys you must defend against. In this chapter, understanding the difference between cybersecurity and information security, showing why cybersecurity is a constantly moving target, understanding the goals of cybersecurity, looking at the risks mitigated by cybersecurity. Chapter 1. What exactly is cybersecurity? To improve your ability to keep yourself and your loved ones cybersecure, you need to understand what cybersecure means, what your goals should be vis-a-vis cybersecurity, and what exactly you're securing against. While the answers to these questions may initially seem simple and straightforward, they aren't. As you see in this chapter, these answers can vary dramatically between people, company divisions, organizations, and even within the same entity at different times. Cybersecurity means different things to different folks. While cybersecurity may sound like a simple enough term to define, in actuality, from a practical standpoint, it means quite different things to different people in different situations, leading to extremely varied relevant policies, procedures, and practices. Individuals who want to protect their social media accounts from hacker takeovers, for example, are exceedingly unlikely to assume many of the approaches and technologies used by Pentagon workers to secure classified networks. Typically, for example, for individuals, cybersecurity means that their personal data is not accessible to anyone other than themselves and others they have authorized, and that their computing devices work properly and are free from malware. For small business owners, cybersecurity may include ensuring that credit card data is properly protected and that standards for data security are properly implemented at point-of-sale registers. For firms conducting online business, Cybersecurity may include protecting servers that untrusted outsiders regularly interact with. For shared service providers, cybersecurity may entail protecting numerous data centers that house numerous servers, that in turn host many virtual servers belonging to many different organizations. For the government, cybersecurity may include establishing different classifications of data, each with its own set of related laws, policies, procedures, and technologies. Remember, the bottom line is that while the word cybersecurity is easy to define, the practical expectations that enters people's minds when they hear the word vary quite a bit. Technically speaking, cybersecurity is the subset of information security that addresses information and information systems that store and process data in electronic form, whereas information security encompasses the security of all forms of data, for example, securing a paper file and a filing cabinet. That said, today many people colloquially interchange the terms, often referring to aspects of information security that are technically not part of cybersecurity as being part of the latter. Such usage also results from the blending of the two in many situations. Technically speaking, for example, if someone writes down a password on a piece of paper and leaves the paper on a desk where other people can see the password instead of placing the paper in a safe deposit box or safe, that person has violated a principle of information security, not of cybersecurity, even though those actions may result in serious cybersecurity repercussions. Cybersecurity is a constantly moving target. While the ultimate goal of cybersecurity may not change much over time, the policies, procedures, and technologies used to achieve it change dramatically as the years march on. Many approaches and technologies that were more than adequate to protect consumers' digital data in 1980, for example, are effectively worthless today, either because they're no longer practical to employ or because technological advances have rendered them obsolete or impotent. While assembling a complete list of every advancement that the world has seen in recent decades and how such changes impact cybersecurity is effectively impossible, we can examine several key development areas and their impacts on the ever-evolving nature of cybersecurity: technological changes, economic model shifts, and outsourcing. Technological changes. Technological changes tremendously impact cybersecurity. New risks come along with the new capabilities and conveniences that new offerings deliver. As the pact of technological advancement continues to increase, therefore, so does the pace of new cybersecurity risks. While the number of such risks created over the past few decades as the result of new offerings is astounding, the areas described in the following sections have yielded a disproportionate impact on cybersecurity. Digital data. In the last few decades, dramatic changes have occurred in the technologies that exist, as well as who use such technologies, how they do so, and for what purposes. All of these factors impact cybersecurity. Consider, for example, that when many of the people alive today were children, controlling access to data in a business environment simply meant that the data owner placed a physical file containing the information into a locked cabinet and gave the key to only people the owner recognized as being authorized personnel, and only when they requested the key during business hours. For additional security, the data owner may have located the cabinet in an office that was locked after business hours, and which itself was in a building that was also locked and alarmed. Today, with the digital storage of information, however, simple filing and protection schemes have been replaced with complex technologies that must automatically authenticate users who seek the data from potentially any location at potentially any time, determine whether the users are authorized to access a particular element or set of data, and securely deliver the proper data, all while preventing any attacks against the system servicing data requests, any attacks against the data in transit, and any of the security controls protecting the both of them. Furthermore, the transition from written communication to email and chat has moved tremendous amounts of sensitive information to Internet-connected servers. Likewise, society's move from film to digital photography and videography has increased the stakes for cybersecurity. Nearly every photograph and video taken today is stored electronically rather than on film and negatives, a situation that has enabled criminals situated anywhere to either steal people's images and leak them, hold people's valuable images ransom with ransomware, or use them to create turmoil in people's personal lives by creating fake profiles on dating sites, for example. The fact that movies and television shows are now stored and transmitted electronically has likewise allowed pirates to copy them and offer them to the masses, sometimes via malware-infested websites. The Internet. The most significant technological advancement when it comes to cybersecurity impact has been the arrival of the Internet era, and more specifically the transformation of the Internet from a small network connecting researchers at a few universities to an enormous worldwide communication system utilized by a tremendous number of people, businesses, and organizations. In recent years, the Internet has also become the conduit for communication both by billions of smart devices and by people remotely connecting to industrial control systems. Just a few decades ago, it was unfathomable that hackers from across the globe could disrupt a business, manipulate an election, create a fuel shortage, pollute drinking water, or steal $1 billion. Today, no knowledgeable person would dismiss any such possibilities. Prior to the Internet era, it was extremely difficult for the average hacker to financially profit by hacking. The arrival of online banking and commerce in the 1990s, however, meant that hackers could directly steal money or goods and services, which meant that not only could hackers quickly and easily monetize their efforts, but unethical people had strong incentives to enter the world of cybercrime. Cryptocurrency. Compounding those incentives several-fold has been the arrival and proliferation of cryptocurrency over the past decade, along with innovation that has dramatically magnified the potential return on investment for criminals involved in cybercrime, simultaneously increasing their ability to earn money through cybercrime and improving their ability to hide while doing so. Criminals historically faced a challenge when receiving payments, since the account from which they ultimately withdrew the money could often be tied to them. Cryptocurrency effectively eliminated such risks. In addition, not only has the dramatic rise in the value of cryptocurrencies held by criminals over the past few years enriched many crooks, providing evildoers with the resources to invest in enhancing their cyber arsenals, but also the public's perception of cryptocurrency as a quick way to get rich has helped scammers perpetuate all sorts of social engineering-based cybercrimes related to cryptocurrency investing. Furthermore, the availability and global liquidity of cryptocurrency has helped criminals launder money obtained through the perpetration of all sorts of crimes. Mobile workforces and ubiquitous access. Not that many years ago, in the pre-Internet era, it was impossible for hackers to access corporate systems remotely because corporate networks were not connected to any public networks and often had no dial-in capabilities. Executives on the road would often call their assistants to check messages and obtain necessary data while they were remote. In later years, they may have connected to corporate networks via special dial-up connections using telephone line-based private lines for extremely limited access to only one or two specific systems. Connectivity to the Internet, of course, created risk. But initially, most firewalls were set up in ways that did not allow people outside the organization to initiate communications. So, short of firewall misconfigurations and/or bugs, most internal systems remained relatively isolated. The dawn of e-commerce and e-banking, of course, meant that certain production systems had to be reachable and addressable from the outside world. But employee networks, for example, usually remained generally isolated. The arrival of remote access technologies, starting with services like Outlook Web Access and PC Anywhere, and evolving to full VPN and VPN-like access has totally changed the game. The dramatic reduction in the cost of cellular-based high-speed Internet access and the availability of mobile data plans supporting data limits sufficient enough to allow effective full-time use have dramatically reduced the need for utilizing public Wi-Fi connections. Risks that one might have deemed reasonable to take a few years ago in order to achieve various business aims have become unnecessary, and as such, policies and procedures regarding public Wi-Fi access must be updated. Smart devices. Likewise, the arrival of smart devices and the Internet of Things, the universe of devices that are connected to the Internet but that are not traditional computers, whose proliferation and expansion are presently occurring at a startling rate, means that unhackable solid-state machines are being quickly replaced with devices that can potentially be controlled by hackers halfway around the world. Globalization has also meant that cheap Internet of Things, IoT, devices can be ordered by consumers in one country from a supplier in another country halfway around the world, introducing, without any oversight, all sorts of unknown hardware into personal and corporate environments. Big data. While big data is helping facilitate the creation of many cybersecurity technologies, it also creates opportunities for attackers. By correlating large amounts of information about the people working for an organization, for example, criminals can more easily than before identify ideal methods for social engineering their way into the organization or locate and exploit possible vulnerabilities in the organization's infrastructure. As a result, various organizations have been effectively forced to implement all sorts of controls to prevent the leaking of information, and the practices of many organizations have invited all sorts of accusations around data misuse and inappropriate protections from both employees and outsiders. The COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic served as a watershed moment in the history of cybersecurity. By forcing people to stay home in environments that are unprecedentedly isolated from one another, the novel coronavirus dramatically and likely permanently changed the way people in the Western world work, thereby yielding multiple significant impacts on cybersecurity. In the short term, the pandemic created all sorts of cybersecurity problems. Organizations that had no work-from-home infrastructures in place, or had such infrastructure but only for a limited portion of their employee populations, were suddenly faced with having to enable people to work from home, often without the ability to prepare users, policies, procedures, and technologies in advance. Many such businesses could not distribute laptops or security devices fast enough to prevent work stoppages, and as a result relied on users to utilize their personal devices for work purposes without any additional security layers added. Likewise, few organizations offered their employees separate Internet connections or separate routers for their remote workstations, so remote workers were nearly always sharing physical and logical networks with their other personal devices and possibly with their children who may have been gaming and or attending virtual school. The security risks of doing such is discussed in detail in Book 2, Chapter 3. Compounding COVID-19 inflicted cybersecurity problems was the fact that while many employers did provide some forms of endpoint security software, many did not, and even those that did rarely addressed any hardware-based risks. To this day, for example, many employers have no idea what router models their employees are using for remote access or when such devices were last updated. Another major cybersecurity concern created by the pandemic has been that communications between employees shifted from conference rooms to remote meetings, opening the doors for hackers to disrupt communications or steal confidential information. The problems were so bad that a new term, Zoom bombing, was coined in 2020 to refer to the practice of mischievous folks joining and wreaking havoc in virtual meetings to which they were never invited. Of course, the fact that people who would otherwise work together in the same location are suddenly unable to communicate quickly in person has also opened the door for many social engineering attacks. For example, a CFO who receives an email from the boss asking that the company pay a certain party for services cannot verify the validity of the request, as the CFO has done many times in the past by walking 10 feet to the boss's office to confirm that the boss actually sent the message. Likewise, people working in homes in which children are in virtual school or quarantined or simply living often suffer from far more interruptions than they would had they been working in an office setting. Interruptions often lead to mistakes, and mistakes often lead to cybersecurity problems. The stress of remaining socially isolated for long periods of time also increases the odds of people making dangerous cybersecurity errors. At a macro level, the sudden shift to work-at-home arrangements has meant that many cybersecurity professionals are increasingly overwhelmed, a problem further exacerbated by organizations having to reallocate resources, sometimes shifting both people and money from security projects to efforts to ensure continuity of operations. And of course, being confined to their homes has afforded many hackers more time to work on their crafts as well, perhaps contributing to the significant rise in the number of zero-day attacks and other newer forms of cybersecurity attacks seen since the pandemic's onset. Book 1, Chapter 2 dives into many of the common cyber attacks that are out there. Remember, entire books have been written on the impact of technological advancement. The main point to understand is that technological advancement has had a significant impact on cybersecurity, making security harder to deliver and raising the stakes when parties fail to properly protect their assets. In addition, unforeseen developments, such as pandemics, can bring sudden, huge technological changes that carry with them tremendous cybersecurity dangers. Social shifts. Various changes in the ways that humans behave and interact with one another have also had a major impact on cybersecurity. The Internet, for example, allows people from all over the world to interact in real time. Of course, this real-time interaction also enables criminals all over the world to commit crimes remotely. But it also allows citizens of repressive countries and free countries to communicate, creating opportunities for dispelling the perpetual propaganda utilized as excuses for the failure of totalitarianism to produce quality of lives on par with the democratic world. At the same time, it also delivers to the cyber warriors of governments at odds with one another the ability to launch attacks via the same network. The conversion of various information management systems, from paper to computer, from isolated to internet-connected, and from accessible only in the office to accessible from any smartphone or computer, has dramatically changed the equation when it comes to what information hackers can steal. And the COVID-19 pandemic has brought many of these issues to the forefront. Furthermore, in many cases in which technological conversions were, for security reasons, not initially done, the pressure emanating from the expectations of modern people that every piece of data be available to them at all times from anywhere has forced such conversions to occur, creating additional opportunities for criminals. To the delight of hackers, many organizations that, in the past, wisely protected sensitive information by keeping it offline have simply lost the ability to enjoy such protections if they want to stay in business. No modern example portrays this as well as the sudden global shift to remote working arrangements in 2020. Social media has also transformed the world of information, with people growing accustomed to sharing far more about themselves than ever before, often with audiences far larger than before as well. Today, due to the behavioral shift in this regard, it is trivial for evildoers from anywhere to assemble lists of a target's friends, professional colleagues, and relatives, and to establish mechanisms for communication with all those people. Likewise, it is easier than ever before to find out what technologies a particular firm utilizes and for what purposes, discover people's travel schedules, and ascertain their opinions on various topics or their tastes in music and movies. The trend toward increased sharing continues. Most people remain blindly unaware of and unconcerned with how much information about them lives on Internet.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?